Python has another loop statement, and it's the for statement. It's a count controlled statement. In other words, the for statement goes for a specific number of times as compared to a while statement that is either true or false. So you may prefer to use this loop when you have a specific number of objects or items to iterate through. And through the next couple examples, it'll be made more clear on how to use a for loop. So in this case, let me remove these comments and we can discuss how it's written. So you start with a for command or function, and it says, this is how I like to go through the for statement in my mind, which is for each object in my group of objects, then that's the end of that line, and then do this script block or this statement. So let's take a look at a couple examples. I'm going to go ahead and hit F5 and run this. Pull this over to the side here. So once again, we start with a count variable. We have it equals 0. And we say, for each iteration variable or itervar in our list of numbers or integers, count plus 1. Then we say print the counter or print count. So in this scenario, it goes for 3 in my list, add 1 to the counter. For 41 in my list, add 1 to the counter. For 12, add 1, 9, add 1, 74, add 1, 15, add 1. In other words, for each object in my list, add 1 to the counter. And then it prints out the counter at the end, and you see that we have the value of 6. There's a little bit, other methods and commands that you could use against a list to get the amount of items that are in a list a little easier. But leveraging the for loop, you say, for each object in my list of objects, add 1 to the counter for each object. And that's how you get your count of 6 objects. If we take a look at the next one, we have total 154 right here. So we have a total variable equals 0. And we say, for each itervar in 3 in our list, total equals total plus the variable. So we say, for 3 in my list, add 3. For 41 in my list, add 3 and 41. So now total equals 44. And then we say, add 12, add 9, add 74, add 15. Then it goes, checks again, there's no more objects to iterate through. The for loop is over. It goes down to the print statement, and that's where we get our total of 154. Awesome. Now there'll be another video discussing range. Range is pretty cool. So in this case, we use the range command, and we give it one argument of 5, which is its stop. So we're going to start at 0 and go to 4 and stop before 5. So we're going to say, for each element in my range of 5, which is 0 through 4, print the element and with the space. So we say, for 0 in my range of 0 through 4, print 0, then 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the range stops at 5, so it doesn't go through 5. But if you see, we have 5 objects, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 5 objects. Pretty cool stuff. We're going to dive more into range in another video. And then we got a simple range right here. So I'm going to discuss range a little more in this video, but we're going to dive deeper in another video. So this range starts at 1 and ends at 6. So the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First argument is the start. Second argument is the stop. So this one says, for each element in my range of 1 through 6, print the element with an end. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stops at 5, or stops at 5 because our range stops at 6, so we never get to 6. And this is what it prints out. And when we're complete with our range, our for loop stops, prints nothing, and then prints this right here, which is below it. And let's see with all 3 settings in a range. So range has 3 arguments: a start, a stop, and then a step. The step is what you're going to count by. By default, it's 1, but you could say 2, 5s, 10s, 100s, however you want to iterate by or count by. So, or step by when you're talking about set values. So we say for each element in my range, starting at 5, stopping at -1, so it's 5 to 0, step backwards by -1. So in theory, this should say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We say for 5 in my range, print countdown 5. We get that. The for statement cycles through each object in my range, which is 5 through 0. Then when this is completed, when there's no more objects, it's done. That's where we get this. And we could also step or iterate through a string. So in this case, we have the word string. And we say for each, then we use the variable char, which is for character. For each character in my string value, which just happens to be the word string, print char end with a space. So it starts off with for S, T, R, I, N, G. There's no more values. It's over. And this is what our outcome is. And there's also another object, or well, it's an object of objects. There's also another group type called a tuple. So a tuple is very similar to a list. Instead of square braces, you use parentheses to declare it. And our objects within our tuple are 1, 3, and 5. And we say, for each object in my group of objects, in this case we say, for 1 in my 1, 3, 5, my tuple, print the object or tuple, right? So var, var. And here we go. 1, 3, 5, no more objects. For loop is over. And for those Ramones fans out there, we could do something similar with a list of strings. And here we have a list of hey ho, let's go. And we say for each variable in my list, or for each object in my list, print that object. And in this case, we get for hey in our list, print hey. For ho in my list, print ho. For let's go, print let's go. Checks it's empty, it's done. And here we get each string or each word on a new list. This is a more complex grouping of objects. It's called a dictionary. It's a key value pair. And we'll discuss these in another chapter. Here we have the variable Greek equals, and you declare a dictionary with curly braces, and you'll have a key with a value. And this is the first object pair, and they're separated by commas. And our second object pair is beta, then with the value of 2, and then our third key value pair is gamma with a value of 3. So here we use the keywords of key. So for key in Greek in our dictionary, if key is equal to beta, continue, right? And then we say print key Greek key. So then we'll have the actual key value printed out. Well, we'll have the key printed out, followed by the dictionary value of that key. A little bit more complex, but we'll have another video discussing these types of objects as well. And we'll dive deeper into how a dictionary is created. And so here we have for key in Greek, if key, and here we have alpha 1, keeps going, beta continue. You notice it doesn't print, gets to gamma, then it prints gamma. Well, the more we dive into dictionaries, the more this example will be more clear. But the thing that I wanted to point out is you could use, anytime you have a group of objects, you could use a for loop to iterate through those objects. And let's check out this range right here. So here we go back to leverage and range, and we say start at 2, stop at 10. So we have 2 through 9 in our range. And here we go. For outer, for each object in our range. For inner, then we have in range to outer. So 2 would be our first one, because our first object in our first range is 2. We use that same variable here, and we say if not outer divided by inner. So if not, right? We say print outer equals inner, integer outer. Let me make this a little larger here. Integer outer divided by inner, break. Else print outer is prime. So basically it's a simple division test for prime numbers. Pop this back. And here we have the test. 2 divided, boom, 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 it breaks out. It's prime. 3 is prime. Then we have 4. 4 is 2 times 2. It's not prime. 5 is prime, and so on and so forth. This is just a more complex example of how you could do some math operations with leveraging a range and a for loop. So when do we use a while loop, and when do we use a for loop? Let's talk about that. You can leverage a while loop when you need to run a loop while a condition is met. So you necessarily don't know how many objects you have or a group of objects. You have a condition that has to be met in order to continue the loop. A for loop, you leverage those when you have a group of objects, and you could iterate through those group of objects. And that's it for loop with a little touch on range. Another video to follow.